Hey everybody, this is Winston with the Surviving Business channel, and I'm here with the wonderful David Victor Wilson. David, what's up? How are you today?
What's happening? I'm
Uh,
good.
So today we're going to talk about something that really is on our heart. When we started this channel, we started it not just so we can just talk to you about businesses that are struggling and businesses that are thriving, but we wanted to make sure that we were there to really help you out because every single one of us has something that we feel, something that's a passion, something that's a calling to us. And we want to help you discover that. And so today we're going to talk about three ways. These are not anything that you haven't heard before, but you're going to hear it in our way. And we hope that it resonates with you. If at least one of them resonates with you, then we have found some value in that. So we're going to talk about that as our business beat for today. So let's get going on that. So we're going to talk about this in a really direct way. So we're just going to make sure that you all can see that we're talking about three specific items today. Three key items that we believe will have an impact or help you get going. If you're sitting around saying, I don't know when to start, I've started, but something's not going awry. And this, everyone, this has come from years worth of experience. The reason why we're here to be able to talk to you today is because we've started a lot of stuff and some things have been successful and some things have not. Some things just didn't work out. And so all of that has accumulated into an amazing amount of knowledge about things to start off with. All of these things you'll hear are things that you will probably have heard before. So, David, before we get into thing number one, anything you want to share with the audience as far as us kicking off this topic?
I think that this conversation is important and it's gonna shed some light on some things that are burgeoning entrepreneurs that are out there watching this may find to be interesting. So I'm ready to go.
That's awesome. So let's talk about the first thing that we've got here today. And so, for those of you who are there, is that we really want you to think about taking an inventory of what you do or what you can do. Because every single one of us, whether you're listening to us and you're 20 years old or you're 60 years old, there are things that you know how to do. There's things that you've learned to do or what not to do. And so we really want you to take that inventory. So now this will go back to how do you do that? So you're going to say, Winston, how do I do that? How do I take an inventory? So self-serving a little bit is that one of the things I've learned is that I'm really good at understanding concepts and being focused on productivity. And I use tools to do that. So whether it's a notebook, so just grab a notebook, grab a piece of paper, start to think about what is it you do and think about the categories about things that you've learned, things that you've been successful at, and things that you want to continue to learn. Take that inventory, whatever system you use. I use a tool. I've migrated to a digital tool where I track every accomplishments that I've done for the last 20 years. So every single year it's got a date and it's got a whatever I've done. Um, and I tell you, it's a very empowering thing. And what you'll do and what you'll find is that you'll learn that you really know more than you think you do. You've ever been in a meeting audience where someone will say to you, hey, you can only do this, or you fit only into that. I'm telling you right now, man, just tell them or do this exercise and make them understand that no, that's not you. You are not in any box. The goal of this conversation here is to help you build your own damn box. And so do an inventory of all the stuff that you've got, all the stuff that you learn, all the things that you know. Make sure you do it right now. And it's an ongoing list. It's not some list that's finished once you're finished your conversation. it
So,
is something that'll keep going. So yes, David.
so the important thing about the inventory, right, is that and the picture that's right there is 100% accurate because you want to know what you have, right? And I think a lot of times we minimize or we minimize. I don't know. I think I made up a word. I did a Jesse Jackson. We minimize. We minimize our own outlook, right? We minimize our own all the categories of things that we do. Some people they go to work and they got a 9 to 5 and they do these things on a 9 to 5, and sometimes they're not even understanding what those things are and how many boxes they're really filling and how many boxes they could really check off, right? And then you want to, while you're doing that inventory, you want to be doing what am I good at? What am I bad at? What am I great at? What do I like? What do I not like? Right? Because you might be great at something that you hate to do, right? But you want to know that that's something that you hate to do, and you want to be able to say, like, okay, what's the value that I put on that, right? And I don't want to jump ahead to our other three things that the other two things that we have to speak about. But the inventory is going to be very related to that, right? Because once you catch your inventory and you understand all of these things that you can do, all of these things, and maybe that while you're doing the inventory, you might find some things that you can't do that you want to be able to do, right? And this is a way for you to take an introspective look and say, like, well, I wish that I was better at, right? And then when you say, I wish I was better at, guess what you can do? Become better at it, right? You do whether if it's classes, you just do work on it. You find ways in order for you to improve yourself.
Yeah, this is such a powerful thing. So, for example, an example you just mentioned, if I want to learn something and I know it's something that I want to be part of my life, for me, I know how I learn. And in my case, a lot of times that might require me going into a classroom somewhere and sitting down and let's listen to somebody tell me. Now, for others, you might be able to learn it by going and reading a book, looking at a YouTube channel, whatever it might be. It might be a way for you to learn it. But I'm telling you right now, this is one of the most powerful exercises you can do when you think about starting your business. Because people will goad you into doing businesses that are not aligned with who you are. And that's when you look at the image to the right of that is just really the why. Like, why are you doing it? Like, why do you want to do it? Why do you want to have the business? Do you want to have it because you hate your job? Do you want to start it because you really love the thing that you're doing? That's in your inventory, that's your number one thing on that inventory? I used to do this exercise with people all the time where I'd have them write down this inventory list, and then I'd have them relegate it to 5 things. And then once they had the 5 things, I would say, all right, let's take away the 5th thing. Let's take away the 4th thing. I am telling you, everyone, it was very difficult for people to do it because they would love the 5 things they put on a piece of paper. There's a reason why they wrote it. So, and then we'd get down to 1, 2, and 3. And then I would say, what's number 1? And why do you love number 1? And is it a business? It might not be a business, but at least you know where you're starting. At least you know what to begin with. And it doesn't mean because you're 65 years old and you're listening to this conversation, you go, oh, well, my life is behind me. That's a load of crap. That's not true. Every single year, every single time you do this, you can do this. You can start over and do it every single year because I know I do. And me at this year and this age and 5 years ago, got 2 different lists because I've learned stuff as time's gone on. So David, why? Your comments on the why.
Comments on the why. I mean, the why is big, right? Why is what's going to lead you to whatever it is that you do, right? Is it because you just want to make money, right? You see an opportunity, you think that it's a great opportunity, you want to make money. That's a great reason, right? And the why is what works for you. Don't allow for somebody to determine what your why is. It's like, oh no, that why ain't good enough, right? The why is what works for you. So when you do that inventory, you tracked it, you said, okay, this is what's up. My thing is take the knowledge and use it, right? Take the knowledge and apply it, right? And there's so many different ways for you to apply it. You apply it in daily conversation when you're speaking to your colleagues, right? You apply it when you are looking for either employment, or you're looking for things that you want to do, is like starting up your own business, right? When you're thinking about, organizations that you may be a part of in extracurricular activities, right? That's also a great place for you to build skills, right? So like, if you're a part of a church, or a nonprofit doing this, or you do some volunteer work at a garden, and there's some things that you want to learn, right? Those are places where you can put it out there. Yeah, why don't you let me try this? You're doing it for free, so most people are gonna be like, all right, if that's what you want to do, you can go and do it, right? I mean, there will be some people. I've worked in enough nonprofits to, not working in a nonprofit, but been a volunteer enough to know that there are people that will be like, no, you can't do that, right? Hey, you put it out there, put yourself out there, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I would say that that's the thing, and this is what made us think about this, is that I've run across so many people who are fighting against the boxes that other people put them in. And when someone sees you, when they see you or I, they initially get some first impression. They say, "Oh well, he's tall, he's short, he's black, he's smart, he's got glasses on, he got a hat on." They make all these impressions initially. But that doesn't mean that that's who you are. That doesn't mean what they think you are. So that's why when you build this inventory, you will feel your own personal muscle really develop. And so write it down. Start with where you are right now. If you're a person that doesn't have a piece of paper, write down 2 or 3 things on your phone right now that you know how to do, that you love to do, that gives you bliss when you do it. That if you had to do it and you didn't get paid off of it, that you would just do it. What is that? For some people, it's writing a story. For some people, it's taking care of a loved one. For some people, it's being an actor. For some people, it's writing and doing business and helping some other people. Like when I was in corporate America, and I am in a different role these days, one of the things that gave me the most joy was helping people who started off in the organization find their next step. Like what was going to be the next thing that they love to do. So if they're in role A and they were going for role B, to help guide them along the path. That gave me bliss. And so really get yourself ready for that. So
Yeah, I mean, that's part of what led me to where I am now, right? I'm a teacher, right? And how did I find out? How did I find out that I love to help people learn new things? And that that is a powerful thing that I'm able to do, and that I think that I do it pretty well. Um, it was doing an inventory, right? Said, yo, I got skill 1, I got skill 2, I got skill 3, I got skill 4. And guess what? I like to apply those things, right? There's some things that come with teaching that, I didn't really know about, that probably don't really fall into things that I love to do. But the primary things that you do have to do are part of the love, right? And, you can't get anything better than, making a teenager care about school, and learn. So,
yeah,
and that's part of the reason why we do what we do with this podcast, because we love to share knowledge. And it's interesting because I don't know if I have a lot of great conversations with people, because a lot of people are like, yeah, we need to start up a podcast. But you beat the bucket. I mean, you beat everybody to the punch. Even though some of my buddies were teasing me last week, saying that I look like I'm in a mugshot, right? So so I'm like, what do I have to do so that I don't look like I'm about to go to prison or something? I don't know. Someone's always got jokes for me. That's my life. Yeah.
Well, I tell you, the reason why we did this show, and I was just talking to a friend right before this, and he was telling me about the hockey stick effect with his own show, and he's in entertainment, and so he had all of these things that he had done for a period of time, and all of this content that he had provided, and he loved it. He is not a young person. He's not like an 18-year-old in entertainment. He's old. He's around our age. And he said, I'm going to do it anyway. I don't care. And so now he's seeing the fruits of that. He said last year, right around the end of last year, he started to see all of his content start to go this way. And I forgot who said that, but there was some quote that I was talking about recently where it was saying that the only time you lose is when you quit. And so if you spend some time really understanding who you are and capturing that inventory, I'm telling you, you're going to feel yourself swell up. You're going to feel like when Popeye had spinach. That is dating me for sure. There's no. And then from there, it's like what is your calling? And a lot of times,
Excuse me. Sorry.
no worries. And a lot of times, this is sometimes linked to the word purpose. Versus versus what a calling is, and a calling in my view is just really what is something that has such a powerful, compelling nature to it for you, is that it goes beyond just what you think of as a purpose. Sometimes I think there's the difference, at least in my own eye, is that purpose versus calling is that one is internal and one is external. Like the purpose is like the internal drive to do a thing, but the calling is something that you will have such an external effect on you and your surroundings that is something that you can't ignore because you've either got the expertise or you've got the alignment, or you're in a situation where you've got to do it because it has an effect not just on you, but on others, everyone around you. And that's really why I want to make sure that in these three things we talk about, that you understand that. Because sometimes I think in our lives, we get it confused. We just go, my purpose is that I'm a writer. That's a great purpose. But sometimes there's a calling that goes beyond that. There's a calling that something somewhere in this world is telling you you need to do something to affect other people around you. That's the difference in my view.
So is purpose the second one?
Yeah, calling and purpose, they're intertwined in my view.
Okay,
I'm just going to talk about them that way.
I'm just making sure that we make it clear for our viewers that purpose is number 2. We're still not on number 1.
So yeah, this is number 2. This is the second thing of the 3 things we want to share today. So they're one intertwined concept, and I wanted to decouple them in a way because I just hear them all the time. Intertwined, or one is not the other. And then if you got the purpose, but then there's something in the society is calling you to do something, like in your case, you've got a great thing because, in my opinion, purpose and your calling are intertwined as being an educator, because you're helping out other people at the same time you're doing your purpose. That's dope. That's how it should be. That's why I wanted to make sure that these 2 things were kind of linked in the same part of the conversation.
Interesting thing is that some years ago, and I hope number 3 is in passion, because because I'm gonna tease passion real fast, because there was a time back when I was going to grad school, other people I knew when they were going to get their MBAs, and I'm in grad school again, but it was always like, what is your passion? You have to find your passion. And the thing about finding your passion left like 80% of the people that was in the class like feeling like I'm a loser. You know what I'm saying? I don't know what my passion is. I can't find this passion. How do you find this passion? What's the directions to find passion? Right? Purpose is a little bit different. Purpose is to say, like, this is the reason why I want to do this, right? And these are the reasons, right? So, yeah, you may be good at this, right? You took your inventory and you find out these are the things I'm good at. These are the things that I like to do. These are the things that I don't like to do, blah, 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 blah. But then you're going to marry that and you're going to say, okay, these are the things I like to do. And why do I like to do it? Right? So it's like the next question. Why do I like to do this? You know what I'm saying? I'm not good at this, but I really enjoy it. And when you answer that question, why you really enjoy it, that's going to lead you to your purpose. That's when you're going to be able to say, like, this is why I want to do this. So yeah, you know, if you have any questions about that, you can come to me and you can ask me, right? How are you gonna find me? We're at Surviving Business all over the place, man. We're on Instagram. We got the YouTube channel. You can always write something and we'll get right back to you. I'm not gonna give you my phone number because we're not gonna talk that way.
I think that we are definitely there for you. We want to come out and talk to you and to your organization about how you can take these 3 principles plus everything you've heard in all of our other episodes and really be able to link it, because we know that you and your family and your group are all focused on really trying to do the right thing. The one thing you won't hear the Surviving Business show talk about is how to do businesses that are against society or that are only focused on just monetary gain without a service component, without an integrity component, without a spiritual component. You won't hear us ever talk about that, but you will hear us talk about how you are great and how you are dope. And like David said, you got a passion. It's hard because passion is that weird kind of thing, right? It's just so weird to me to talk about it because I have a passion for all kinds of stuff. That's kind of confusing to me. I have a passion to eat food a certain kind of way. I have a passion to travel, to go to New York and go to Manhattan when I go to New York. That's a passion of mine. But a calling and a purpose is just a powerful thing that goes beyond that. I really appreciate your comments there. I really do. Because it wasn't number 3 today. And so I really appreciate you sharing that. Because it's like a bonus number 3. So that was great. And the number 3 that we had here was really around the why and the why and the who you're doing it for. And really around who is the group that you're trying to do this for. So sometimes you hear about this shared as the customer. So you hear this term like the customer. And the reason why you see the images in front of you is that if you're not doing it to serve someone or to serve a community or to bring value to someone, then like, why are you doing it, man? Why are you doing that? What's the purpose for it? You got to really think about why are you doing it? Like there's so many things. The United States is dope at creating all kinds of businesses. And some businesses that we create are just like instruments, right? For people to get paid or for one thing or the other. But you who are listening to the show, you are trying to create something that's a legacy for yourself and potentially your family. So who are they? Who are those people? Who are those customers that you're doing it? So just like we talked about going through this inventory exercise, we want you to think about who are the people that you bring value to. Who are your clients? Who are your customers? I've heard this term a lot lately around the avatar, right? Creating an avatar of your exact client that you want to have. And I think it's kind of a good idea in a way, but I don't want you to be limited by it. I don't want you to say, all right, I did it in 2021. This is who my customer avatar is forever. Everything that we're sharing with you today is a process. Having a business, and any business owner will tell you that it is a journey. It is not a finite thing. It's not a task that you do. I started a business. It's not a real daggone thing. That is just part of the overall process. Starting a business is a lifelong pursuit. It is something you'll be doing from now until the end of your days. It is.
Yeah, I mean, I'll share, you know, a little bit of the thought behind creating a business, right? And the reason why businesses, for the most part, are considered to be separate entities, right? Unless you start up like a mom and pop shop and you tie it completely to yourself. But even then, the business itself has an infinite lifetime as long as it's successful, right? So you'll find that what company was it that Nokia? I was looking up Nokia for some reason. Was it Nokia? No, it wasn't Nokia. It was Folgers. I was looking up Folgers coffee because I saw a jingle for Folgers, and I was like, "Oh my gosh, did they steal this jingle from some old song? Because I've been hearing it for so long. Where did they get this from?" Right? So it's an original that they created in 1984, but the company's been around for 150 years, and the lineage of the company goes back to the 1600s.
Really? Wow, didn't know that about Folgers.
Yeah. So when you think about a company that its beginning parts started in 1600
Wow.
and is still functioning today and is still on all, in every supermarket that you go to. I've never drank Folgers coffee. My dad used to drink Folgers for a little while. I don't even think he drinks that stuff anymore. But they're in business and they making crazy money still, right? And the commercial, the same jingle from 1984, maybe a little reverb to it, is still just like killing it. My daughter heard the jingle. My daughter's 4 years old. She heard the jingle and she started trying to sing it. She's like, the best. I'm like, yo, this is amazing marketing. And they realized it was amazing marketing. We don't need to abandon it. You know how many organizations have made an amazing marketing campaign? And for whatever reason, they felt like, well, we need to do a different marketing campaign to improve. We want to do better. It's like, yeah, you can do better with the same. Tweak what you have. You've created an identity. Well, let's not get completely off topic, but you've created an identity within this marketing campaign that you created. You don't have to dump it because I've seen it happen a lot of times where companies dump it and they get something that's horrible. So you dump what was great, you get something that's horrible, and then you like, okay, we need to scramble again, and then you get something that's okay, and you never really go back to that thing that was just phenomenal.
Yeah. Wow.
You see Geico, they do it a lot, right? So they're always tweaking and playing with their marketing campaign, and some are hits, some are misses, but some of them were just like amazing, and you're like, okay. Every time that they have to go and change this thing around completely and totally, that's some marketing guy getting paid buku bucks. Man, and for them, they have a huge budget to pay for marketing anyway. So, they're like, whatever, we want to keep on staying fresh and staying new. But Folgers is a great example of if it works and you do it right, it can keep working.
That's right. So yeah. So everyone here. So keep in mind that make sure that you go to our website and become a member because their memberships will be opening up soon. So this conversation you'll be able to hear in full over time there. So David, thank you so much for this. And so I want to wrap up this conversation, and we hope you all have listened to everything that we've shared here today. It's just been really, it's been important that we share this directly with all of you because I think a lot of times business owners or people who are starting businesses just don't really know where to start, and they think it's as easy as flipping a button, but they don't take time to have an inventory, to understand why they're doing it, to figure out whether this is a calling, a passion, or a purpose. And then they don't spend any time to figure out who they're doing it for. They just say, "Oh yeah, well, I'm just doing it because," and those are all good things. Just answer the questions because there's somebody out there that wants what you do. You do not have to have 7.7 billion people as your customers. You need to find out who your customers are, and there's enough of them for you to get paid. There's enough of them for your business to be successful. There are enough.
Yeah, I want to say something. The who is like so important. Like, I mean, so if you have a business, you can't sell your products to yourself and make money, right? There's no business. If there is a business that's out there that's been created where it's like I open up a business and I just sell stuff to myself and I'm rich, you
Tell us
tell
about
me.
that one. Yeah, tell us
You
about that
know,
one. Yeah, that
you
would
know.
be.
Well, I've heard of some people who do some type of things that is similar to that, but that's not a real business, right? They're just trying to find a way to do a loophole and pass money through some stuff in order to make some things happen. But I'm talking about a real business. If you got a real business, the only way you're gonna have a real business that's out there and making money is if you're getting money from somebody else. You need other people to pay for whatever the service is. This is why the who becomes very important. And it's not only that, right? It's not only that because maybe the business you want to start is strictly a nonprofit, right? So the who is who you're serving, right? The who is your client, it's who you're serving. It could be the who could be your employees, right? They're all part of it, right? So when we start thinking about the who can start getting really interesting, right? Because now you're talking about everybody that falls in the line that's going to be affected by your business, right? So your who could have something to do with the supply chain. You know what I'm saying? Your who could have something to do with the banking system, right? The banks that you're actually going to be using and blah blah blah. The who could have something to do with the real estate that you're going to need in order to open up the office or to open up the shop. Where's the shop going to be located? And if the shop is going to be located here, who's in that neighborhood, right? And once you start really defining the who early on, right? When you start getting into that marketing plan and you start thinking about market segmentation and who's the people that I'm really trying to hit and sell it to, right? You're going to be able to define that greater, right? You're going to be able to say, yeah, well, this product is really created for women between the age of 30 to 45 that are African American and Hispanic that have coily hair and will be affected by this product in XYZ kind of ways and find it to be way advantageous to themselves, right?
Yeah.
That's the type of thought process that starts to happen when you start knowing that inventory and then you define that who.
That's right. So everyone that's out there, please, if you have any questions or if you have any comments, or if you want us to help you, please let us know because we want to do that for you. So this has been fantastic. We are going to move on to our next segment for today. So today we're going to talk about a industry that is very close to my heart. And I tell you, I was reluctant to talk about this one because it was so close. And I think we're getting to a point with the pandemic kind of, I'm going to say subsiding, but getting better, the whole environment getting better, where a lot of businesses that we talked about initially that were really under the gun, I think a lot of them are starting to come up with plans. This one is still got some plans, but it's still out there a little bit. And that is the stage theater business. And what I mean by that is the businesses that when you go to see a musical or if you go to see a stage play, and they are in every single city, in every single corner of the United States of America. And when the pandemic happened, any human being that's ever been to a daggone stage play know there's people are close by you and they're very close. So they were very adversely affected by this. To the point where I know people here in the state that I live in that had to close their doors for a period of time. Some were getting grants that helped them keep them open, and some were getting grants funneled to larger organizations. But every single time I think about them, and I think about you, if you're in that world, I just think about all the actors, the stage people, the people who own those businesses. And I was saying to myself, it's such a beautiful experience to go to a stage play or to a stage musical. It is like one of the coolest things that we can do because we get a shared experience at the same time that happened at the moment that will never happen again. Even if there's a show 2 hours later. That time, though, that time I went, that time you went was a singular moment for you. And so I am so hopeful that this industry comes back. I believe it will. I've heard rumblings that Broadway will be coming back here sooner than later, because you think about Broadway and all of the thousands of actors. I have a thing that I'll share here, but I think it was like 97,000 people were affected when it closed down. That's a whole lot of people and a whole lot of money that disappeared, where those people can't get paid immediately. So there's unions for actors, for example, but there's also many actors who are not in a union. And I was saying to myself, now that hurts my heart because that's a group of people that I associate with and that I feel really intense about. So Dave, we're talking about theaters today. What are your
Yeah.
initial
So when we think about theaters, I always like to do the historic type of thing, right? And think back, way back before time. I mean, like you can go so far back to real live entertainment, right? This is like the medieval ages, in Japan. I don't know what years,
African
1500s,
African
1300s.
African there's a lot of historical references that African tribes were the first people to do stage plays because we were the first people on earth. And so hence
Yep.
we were doing a lot of stage kind of shows really way
Yep.
back when.
Way back when. So you can go, I mean, I'm pretty sure back in Egyptian society, there was some type of stage play. There is something that is amazing about that shared experience, right? Now, when we look at the pandemic has adversely affected them because the theaters as they've been created today, most theaters are indoor. They're in these dark, gloomy places. I'm in New York, so we got Broadway, right? And we got off Broadway. But a lot of those theaters, even though you pay $100-something for a ticket and it may feel nice when you go in there, when you're not thinking about COVID being around, it's perfectly fine, right? This carpeted stuff and velvet on the walls and all this other stuff. But when you're thinking about COVID, you look around, you're like, man, that could be anywhere, right? This is like just waiting for a germ to just sit there and just plop and sit around. So there is a issue, right? Because in my state, plays just haven't been open, right? I think that they've finally opened this week or next week, but it's going to be something at like a 10% capacity or something like that.
Hey Dave,
No. It's in September when they're targeted.
I'm sorry to interrupt you, but we had a comment here about our previous segment. And so I know this is going to be a wacky thing from an editing perspective, but I did not want to not talk about this question that we got. And I want to thank you for this. And this was when we were talking about, we were so into the last segment, we just kept going. and Durante, Steve asks us about how do you appeal to them, the who, in regards to our last segment. So I know it's going to be wacky from editing, but I want to make sure we spend a few moments in answering that for him. So what was your thought about that?
So how do we appeal to them, right? So it depends on who is, right? If the who is a client, right? The way that you're appealing to them is tied to that purpose, right? It's tied to the purpose and it's tied to the inventory that you took, right? So you're gonna look and you'll say, boom, I'm great at doing this, XYZ. Therefore, my company has this type of expertise and knowledge, right? And then you're gonna say, that's the inventory part, right? And then the purpose. What we're here to do is that. And we're going to achieve this through doing these type of things, right? This is the way that you're appealing to them, right? And it depends on who is, though. Like what I said, if it's your employees, right? Why do you want to work here? these are the reasons that you want to work here, right? So it's the reasons that you want to work here, they're always being tied back to that inventory that you've created. They're being tied back to the purpose and the reasons why you exist.
Yeah. The one thing I'll add to that is that when you do that in every single engagement, every single time you have a chance to engage with the who, be you, be extremely authentic in every single time you do that. Make sure that you and the reason why you're doing it comes through every single time. And don't feel that you have to have a script if you don't have a script about what you're going to say. Just be you. People buy stuff these days from people that they know are real. They are down with real people. There's so many distractions in our lives that we don't have time. We can see through, human beings can see the fluff pretty fast now. They can see when someone is just trying to egg them on, or they think they're a mark to try to get paid off for them. And so they can see it pretty fast. But if you, Steve, are being who you are, I'm telling you, you got a great shot. Like I said earlier, your goal is to not get all 7 billion people, but to get the right people down with you and get the right people to appeal to you. But in every single interaction, make sure that you're being yourself and admit when you don't do something right. Admit when you say, you know, I had this thought and this is not going the way it is. People will like or get down with you more frequently or more than when you're trying to pivot.
Yep.
Or let me try to cover it up. Mm-hmm. They'll be more into you because of you being who you are in that case.
Yeah. So it's that idea of authenticity, right? That's the word. That's the big word. Are you authentic when you are dealing with the who? And you have to be authentic. You know, I mean, to be literal, if you're a jerk, you know, and you're just a person that people don't like, maybe you might need to egg off a little bit about your authenticity. But even then, your authenticity will probably still be a reason why people may want to buy the product and they want to follow you. I mean, we've seen political leaders, and I won't name anyone, but we've seen political leaders that have proven, you know, in the last several years that they are just kind of loony, and people follow them. They're like, yo, I don't care. I like it because he gives it the way that it really is.
I'll name them. And so our president, for example, it was super successful in business, not because he was a successful business person, but he was successful at being who he is, at being authentically who he was. And people liked it, even to the point where 75 million Americans voted for him because they were like, I don't know whether he knows what he's doing or not, but I know he's who he is all the time. And so whether you and I don't like that, and you know, and there's 82 million Americans that didn't like it, but I was saying to myself, he was being himself all the way to the point where he wasn't the president anymore. And that says something. And there's lots of people like that. A lot of people said Steve Jobs was a real jerk most of the time, but he was being himself all the time.
Really, well, he wasn't being himself. He was probably wasn't being himself at the Apple shows because he never showed his jerkdom there.
I don't know, man. I don't know what happened backstage right before he walked on stage.
But I'm just saying when he was on stage, he wasn't like just pulling like, yo.
Well, I can tell you,
it's the best thing out there.
Well, I do believe that his passion came through and his purpose, and he felt he had a calling to create great products for people. Then that part came through really well when he was on stage. You know, he didn't turn to the audience and say, hey, all of you guys, you're a bunch of a-holes or whatever he didn't say that to them. But at the moment I thought he was being authentic when he would get on stage because he thought his phone was the best phone. He thought his iPad or his MacBook Air was the best thing that he had. He really felt that. I'm kind of excited, though, that this conversation went beyond our typical allotted time, as much as I want to talk about theaters, etc. today. But this is just so important that we shared that. So we don't have to restart on a conversation with this. I know you were down a path. They're talking about that a little bit.
So in theaters, so there's a historic complex there's this historic part of theaters, and then there's where we are today. And a lot of them have had their doors closed for a long period of time, right? So it's regardless of what kind of help that they've gotten, the I guess the hill that so there are different players at work, right? So there are production companies, right, that are tied to particular shows that are being shown, right? There are the theaters themselves that the production companies get the space from in order to be able to show the shows, right? And then there are all of the people that perform, the ticket collectors, the dancers, the people who do production in there. So they do like the lights. So the production company is kind of different than the people who actually doing the lights and all this other type of stuff. There are people who they have to fund the play in order for the play to go on. There are writers and directors that have been out of work. The great thing about, well, not great, but one good thing about writers and directors, well, not directors so much, but for writers, when writers don't have a show that's out there that they're, concentrating on, they can be out there writing more stuff, right? So we may have like this huge amount of inventory. We'll bring it, the word stays around, but we might have a huge inventory of great plays that are out there that may be new shows that are going to come to market when we're completely in recovery. But what we always like to try and think about is how do they deal with the situation that they're in today?
Yeah.
One of the things that I think that I've seen that they've been trying to do is utilizing Zoom platforms. To me, quite not the same, but they've been doing it. They've been leveraging TV shows, right? So they've gotten more time on TV than what they normally would have. And I've even seen some attempt to use outdoor space to do like pop-up type of shows, right?
Yeah. So full disclosure here, I'm part of the Atlanta Black Theater Festival here in Atlanta's board. And so last year when we had our shows, we had all of the shows were virtual, but there was a few shows where the actors got together. There's one show that was Hamlet with a bunch of young kids portraying on doing Hamlet, but they were all together and it got filmed and then it got broadcast afterwards. And then this year, the Atlanta Black Theater Festival is going to be outdoors here in Atlanta. And so it's going to be out there. And so these are definitely ways that theaters can survive. When it started, going back to the way you start off the historical thing, it was always outdoors because there was nowhere else to be but outdoors.
Yep.
1,000 years ago. So it works. It's definitely a way for it to work. And the other comment that I'll just add on is that I think in many of our conversations, we've talked about the integration with technology as far as a way to help some of these industries get to the next level. I think that's the case here too, is to make sure that there are definitely opportunities to either stream or to restream or to package it up or to do other things to make sure technology is in place. At the same time, you still want the advantage and the beauty of going into the theater, but there's a way to couple it together. There's a way to couple when post-pandemic, when you're out online, and to connect technology with that, or to connect when people are sitting in the seats. There's so many ways to use it in ways that we haven't seen before. There's definitely some powerful ways to do that. And at the same time, the whole economics of theater, which is a whole nother show that we have to talk about. But when you started to go through the litany of people that's involved with making one production, if you made one production at the bare minimum, it's going to cost you tens of thousands of dollars to make it really well. And so there's a conversation that we really need to have about how does those economics work, because it's not anyone's fault. It's just the gluttony of entertainment that we have that exists out there that people are saying to themselves, my gosh, do I spend $25 on this? Or do I spend $5 on that? Do I spend $10 on that? There's so much coming at us simultaneously. Is really finding a way to make sure that theater for those of going back to our conversation earlier about the clients of theater, the people, the patrons of theater, making
Mhm.
sure that they know that there is great theater around, and making
Yeah.
sure that they know that they can get involved, because you can't get the people who just want to Netflix and binge and never want to go to theater, but there are definitely people who want to go back to the theater.
Tons of people who have been aching just to get back in the theater. And the thing is, we had the show on movie theaters, right? And we had our kind of like, yeah, do people really go back to the movie theater, right? Because now what Samsung's average TV is like, they start their TVs at 55 inches, right? So, you got a big 85-inch TV in your house with, surround sound and all this other stuff. It's not so much of a shared experience for a movie, right? When you go to a play, it's still a shared experience.
That's right.
You and everybody at that play, you're only going to see it there. And plays don't translate well into video, right? So,
Yeah.
you can
It's hard.
record a play and you can watch it, but it's not going to have the same feel.
Now there's when you're sitting right in the front row and you're sitting there. I've
Yeah.
been to plays before when I've heard the people laugh or feel the emotion, or even when I had my own play a couple of times, there's a level of emotion that you feel. You cannot replicate that. Our brains are wired to see the TV screen and to see the being in front of something as different experiences.
Yep.
And it hasn't gotten to the point yet, where we've been able to intermingle the two. There's a reason why 3D TVs didn't work. Is that people were like, wait a minute, I can't, that don't work for me. Why not just go to the theater? It was definitely different.
Yeah, 3D TVs. I had to have one, and it was like I got it, and then I like used my glasses one time, But I won't say that's a whole nother. We should do something on. We should do a show on like defunct technology that just never hit the base, right? That
On
would be
the next episode of Surviving Business, we're going to talk about defunct technology like 3D TVs, HD DVD, which was the Toshiba thing. All of these technologies that were really, really awesome, but are struggling. And then the ones that are thriving, going back to our next segment, or our last segment. And for example, I believe that I didn't believe this 6 months ago, but I believe that these whole VR glasses are going to be a thriving industry here soon. And if you had asked me this 6 months ago, I'd be like, heck no, ain't no way. Ain't no
Did you
way.
try one on or something? How all of a sudden what changed your mind? Because I've had so many conversations with you. Yo, these things are amazing. And this just came from one interaction. I was at a conference for the Cup Fellows. If you know what the Cup Fellows are, then you do. If you don't, then you don't. But I was at a conference with the Cup Fellows, and they had like this little setup for the Oculus, and I went over there. I was like, what is this thing? I didn't like VR before, and that experience blew my mind. And I was like, this has come so far. This is amazing. And I kept trying to tell you, this guy comes to New York with his family, and they have like these amazing like VR experience places where you go, and it's like 2 hours of you just going and trying different VR technology. Let's go. He's like, no, I refuse to go. That's BS. What changed your mind?
I love technology, and I don't want to give away too much for that upcoming episode, because that's the next episode. But I will say that I saw an application of it, and like this light bulb went off in my head. I said, oh my gosh, that's the application. That's the thing that was missing. And I was saying, and it was something I saw someone just casually doing, and this is the reason why you need to tune into the next episode of Surviving Business. And I said to myself, that's it. If you can get that group of people down with VRs and what they need to do, then that is going to take off like a rocket ship. And I will admit, like we said, being back at the beginning, being authentic and being real, I love technology, and I've been just as wrong as about certain technologies as I've been right of. And I've been right a lot about lots of technology. But there has been some times I say, you know what, I don't know the application of that yet. And I think VR is going to be our thing, and we're going to talk about next week. And so
we'll have fun talking about it. Let's move on, because I got a lot to say about VR some nuggets.
So
We got to get back to theaters and all that other stuff.
well, I think that if any one of you that is out there is watching the Surviving Business show have any comments or so many thoughts about theaters, and what do you think that the theater industry, stage theater industry, can do as far as really getting its mojo back, please let us know, because we'd love to share that with you and love to discuss that with you. I've tried to not talk about it too much because I get emotional about this one specifically, because it's just, I feel it so much. I just miss it. Of all the things I missed during 2020 and 2021 is theaters. It's one of the things that I miss, like for real. Besides not seeing my family, going to a theater, like I can take it or leave it when it comes to movie theaters, but stage theaters, I miss that a lot.
Yeah,
I really
yeah.
do.
I'm also a big lover of stage theater, but having a 4-year-old has made it not as easy to get out to a play in the last 4 years. But before that, that was a regular thing, regular thing. But we still made it out, just not quite as often.
Yeah, I just think that it's going to be. I'm so looking forward to 2021 and 22. I'm going to be all over.
I
Like
mean,
anywhere I go, I'm going to be there, and theater is going to be one of those places.
and I mean, the thing is that, even as we continue to think about theaters, they have new inlaid costs, right? So, they have to upgrade their filtration systems. They have to, do all of this stuff to have proper PPE, right? They have to do all this stuff. So when they open up, and I think there are some federal funds allocated towards their business type, but when they open up, the theater experience may feel a little changed for some time, but it will be great that it's just back.
Yeah, you make a good point. Things like sanitation, periods between actual shows is going to probably have to be um, more elongated, right? Because there's
Mm-hmm.
going to have to be this whole sanitation process that occurs, and then that means there's different costs. I really think that there's a lot of sponsors that sponsor theaters and theater groups, specifically here in Atlanta. So I see them all the time. Some well-known corporations that support theaters, and I think that I will publicly say that they need to do more of that. They need to, instead of just saying, all right, we'll give you a little tiny bit of money here, 2 G's or whatever that is, like support a season. Some
Yeah.
of these, some of these multinational corporations that don't pay any taxes or purportedly not paying any taxes, just sponsor a theater or sponsor a city's theater for a period of time. Just say, let's take $1 million and support all of the local theaters that are out there doing something. Just do that. All of the
Yeah.
ones that are all of these great celebrities that do a lot of great things for like the African American community, just go in and say, you know what, I'm gonna support every theater in a jurisdiction or in a metro area for their season. Every single one of them. You're gonna write it off anyway in your taxes. Just do it. Just support people directly. That
Yeah.
thing will help them immensely.
I mean, yeah, because there's a huge component of theater. Well, not a huge component. Theater is the arts,
That's right.
right? And it's about expression, and it's about um allowing for not just the writer to express, not just the actors to express, but for the people that go to have this feeling of emotion that they're not going to get anywhere else. So when people, some people may look and they say like, man, well, you saying to give money to theaters, but there's hungry people on the street. There's people who ain't got no housing, like I don't know if you heard the news what happened this week where in New York these cops they went into a housing project with a robo dog. It's a robot dog. It's like New York City's first robot dog that they brought out. And I guess they thought that this was awesome that they had this robot dog and they brought it into like this housing project, but everybody was pissed. They were like, yo, you mean to tell me, you can't give me money to eat? There's broke people, there's this, that, and the other, but you got money to buy a dog. And our illustrious mayor backed down from saying like, okay, well, we need to invest in better policing. to say like, well, we have to look at the situation and we have to say, like whatever. But what the point of all of those words was that I'm saying is that although there are many needs and you can't serve every need that's out there, theater is one of those important needs.
Yeah.
It's an important need. It's something that our children do from when they are, my daughter's been in plays. She's 4 years old, right? She's been in plays since she was 3. But kids will be in plays their entire, life, right? Up until 18 years old, right? And then there are professional actors, right? There would be no Denzel without
theater,
right? There would be, and the list is long, so let me not go into the list. But there would be no the movie actors that we see. Many of them have been created due to being in real live theater. So
the Academy Awards is soon. I believe it's coming up here very shortly, and I'm sure that if you ask any one of those actors that win, they will say that at some point they were in a theater production of some kind. And I think you made a point there about this whole demarcation between the people who are struggling out there, right? Because there's a whole bunch of Americans that don't have a place to sleep tonight. There's 500,000 last checked, and there's a much more that don't have a place to eat. They don't have food to eat. What we're sharing is that we've got to make sure we support our entire society, and we know that theater is one way that we encourage, and it creates a spiritual kind of energy for us, as all of us, no matter who you are, no matter what ethnicity you are, it creates that energy. It's a thing that links to our spirituality. It just is. Every single person right now, no matter what they are and what status they are, they would love a moment to just be entertained.
Yep.
They just will. And if not, they're going to make it up, or they're going to do something. In my opinion, in some cases, if they don't have this outlet, they might do something that's not so great. So great comments, great conversation. Thank you all for joining us today. We're going to talk about the Thrive in Business for today. It's so funny to talk about the thriving business of today because it's sort of in semi-diametrically opposed on some level to what we just talked about. And so everyone in 2020 and 2021, there's been this massive proliferation of things like what we're doing right now, where we're online talking to you all. For those of you who are listening to us live, for those of you who will listen to us later, there's been this real proliferation of streaming type technology that's existed. And if you would access in 2019, people would have been like, Zoom, okay, that's kind of cool. What is that again? How much does that cost? When do I get on that? What's the deal? What's that? How do I do? Now, there's not a person that we know of that don't know what this all is that we're doing, as far as us being able to talk to you today live and or later. So this type of business has definitely grown immensely. And for those of you who do like streaming services, that has grown as well. You think about HBO and all of those things and Netflix and all of that's happened. And so I think it's an awesome thing, because I think about this personally. Like you, I, and 45 other of our family members got together for our first ever family reunion via Zoom 6 months or so ago, probably 9 months now.
I think the important statement, because I think you're belittling that a little bit.
No, I'm not.
No. What I want to say,
I'm saying this is fantastic. This is awesome.
No. I just want to clarify that statement.
What statement?
It wasn't the first one via Zoom. It was the first one, period.
Oh, what you mean? You meant to say I'm downplaying a little bit.
You're right. You're like, it was our first one via Zoom. Like, no, we've spoken about having a family reunion maybe for the last 20 years, if not more, right? When we grew up everything was a lot more tight knit. So we didn't think about a family reunion because there was always some type of party or some reason for family to be together.
And then
But
everyone,
now
yeah,
everyone's in different states and everywhere else.
that's
And
right.
this was
Yeah.
the first time that we were able to have one, and we did it via Zoom. And it was a humongous success. And we need to start thinking about doing it again this year because we're coming up on that time
It's going to happen.
frame.
It's going to happen. So I've given some thoughts, and for those of you who are out there listening to us, you're getting into our business a little bit, which is okay. And so there's some technology that came out of this. I'll say, man, we can do this really fun thing. So like there's this program called Kahoot, where you can go in and you can have all these games inside of the Kahoot and these quizzes and all that kind of thing. Like if you go to a typical family reunion, they will have like prizes and games and all this stuff. I was like, man, we could use Kahoot virtually, if it's still around when we have the next one, which hopefully in a couple of months.
It will be around. So every teacher uses Kahoot except for me.
Oh. And I was like, that is so awesome. And then thinking about the technology that we're using today, for those of you who are joining us, is that I have this ancestry thing, and several other people in our family have this ancestry thing. And I'm saying, why don't I just share my ancestry thing, send them the link, and then when we're doing this family reunion, people can just plug in live and just do the daggone ancestry. I don't care if it's on my account. What do I care? It's my family. Just go ahead and do it. And let's just do it like a fun exercise live, real time. And this would not have happened in 2019.
No.
2018, it wouldn't even have been a passing thought in anybody's mind. We would have just still been thinking about how are we going to fly everybody out to somewhere to make it all happen. And the reason why I thought it was a great thing to talk about today is this, that as bad as it's been, right? People can't go places. I haven't seen you face to face in over a year, and my rest of my family. That stuff hurts my soul, but at least I have this. At least we have this. And, you know, we had a great grand aunt that died a few months ago that was 106 years old, that was in Jamaica. And we were able to see her passing via streaming. No one would have ever given that a thought 2-3 years ago. They wouldn't even ever said to themselves, man, my person's passing there in another country. What am I going to do? They wouldn't even thought about it. They would say, either I got to fly there or I can't go. But now
call somebody and try and hear about it.
That's
pay
right.
like crazy money to call.
Now I saw someone that I didn't even know existed a year ago. I was able to see her passing and her celebration. That's fantastic. Streaming services are dope. And they're not going anywhere. Post-pandemic, you're still going to be in situations like this where you're going to be on Zoom talking to people.
Yeah. So when you look at the economics behind it, right? People, you know, like for instance, when Daddy finally got on Zoom, he's like, "Oh, I don't like these free things because of blah 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 blah. Someone's getting paid somehow." And I'm like, "Yeah, there are economics to it, right?" Zoom knows that if they get XYZ amount of users on it, you get the free account that's, you know, you get 40 minutes of hosting time. And there are going to be people who are going to talk longer than 40 minutes because people talk longer than people got big mouths and they like to talk and they go on and on. And if you get a whole bunch of people on, a whole bunch of people are going to talk. So they're not going to be able to use this free account for long once they get hooked. So they're going to pay money to get the subscription. And once they get the subscription service, they got you. You're subscribing. You're using it all the time. You're not getting rid of your subscription service unless something dramatically changes in your life where you're like, you're not going to use Zoom that much anymore to host your meeting. Right?
You can't. We couldn't have had that family reunion without a paid subscription.
No.
You can have 40 people on talking all at the same time without that kind of thing.
Yeah, exactly. So the metrics work for them, right? If we would have looked at Zoom's market price 2 years ago from where it is today, you know, they've grown immensely. I'm not looking at it. I don't know the chart right now, but I know that they've grown over 600%. I believe over 1,000%. They have their market. Their market price in the stock market has grown ridiculous, but they're not the only ones that are out there. They're not the only player, right? There are so many other players that are coming up. There are so many other streaming services that are coming up. You got Facebook Live, you got Instagram Live, you got you know, what's the one that the kids like to do? Well, you got Twitch, right? For the gamers, you and the gamers and DJs now they're doing that. You got the TikTok, right? TikTok doesn't really compare to those, but it kind of like falls as a small competitor because they're creating like that content, which I wouldn't be surprised if that content starts having NFT value. Something else that we could get into later. But I'm pretty sure that if I create a really dope TikTok, I should be able to assign some NFT value to it and be able to really get paid off of it. It just makes sense to me.
I think so. I think that may have already occurred.
Yeah, if it hasn't, I don't know. It's something to think about, as far as TikTok and their
On top of
valuation.
on all the thriving things we just talked about with streaming services, there's an infrastructure behind that that's thriving as well. So, for example, you think about internet services. So, like if somebody had like a really poor or no internet service before and they wanted to do streaming, they might have decided to do that. Or they might have upgraded their cell phone plan so they can do a hotspot. There's an infrastructure behind all of that that's had this real meteoric rise on top of just the streaming services themselves, on top of all of that stuff. So I'm pretty excited as a tech guy. I love the fact that it exists. I love the
Yeah.
fact that you can connect with people, that you could have the conversation with people from 3 different countries at the same time. That's pretty cool, man. And I'm glad that that's not going away.
Yeah, and we speak a lot about the digital divide, right? I've seen it, especially in my day-to-day work. People who don't have devices to be able to connect to the internet in America, right? In the US, which is a, a little befuddling at times that they don't have high-speed internet, right? And they don't have access to it, right? Maybe it's outside of the budget, maybe it's outside of what they can afford to pay, which brings into the other topic, like or just the other question that I always have is, in the US we pay so much for internet services, but it's something about the way that things are set up, this oligopoly that they allow to exist for internet providers, that's a carryover from cable companies and phone companies, which really needs to be broken down, because
It's
if
not
we
that
were over in Japan pays like $10 a month for high speed internet, which is all 5G, right? And we're
and ours is not that great. I went to Australia back in 2017, just to go to support a nonprofit, and the whole time I was there was Wi-Fi everywhere, and the Wi-Fi was, in my opinion, blazing fast everywhere that I went, and I was like, "What is going on? This place is at the other side of the earth, and they got such amazing internet going on."
yeah, it's befuddling, right? But we stream, we stream everything, right? Even if you got cable, if you're paying money for cable, I guarantee you that at least 25 to 45% of your watching time in front of a TV is still going to be stream services, if not more, right? Because that's what we do, right? Um, Schools are using this technology in order to deliver education, right? There are many people in education that feel that there is no way that this ever disappears from education.
Yeah.
I know in New York it's never going to disappear. You know why? Because it snows up here and schools are going to be open remotely. So the day of a snow day, which now that I'm a teacher, it's like, that's not a great thing, but snow days are gone forever.
Yeah, you make a good point. And even in my case, I do all of my work remote. It's harder these days to have an official day off
Yeah.
than it's ever been. So, like the days off now, because I'm hoping to have one here soon. The days off now is when I leave my house to go
Yep.
to go to some other place that's got nothing to do with business, or I got to like physically go somewhere else in order to have an official day off, because everyone's accessible, which is another topic I believe in surviving business. So
And and as you touch on that, it's very interesting to me when we look at companies and what companies have decided to do, right? So the first shift that I saw companies with going remote was after 9/11, right? So after 9/11, a lot of companies got hit in their main center, in New York City, and business got disrupted for weeks, right? So they say, you know what? We got to find ways to be able to recover. So this whole disaster recovery thing became very real to a lot of Fortune 500 companies. So for the Fortune 500 companies, a lot of them started building up the infrastructure to be able to work remotely way before the pandemic. Most companies in their disaster recovery plan, all that they had in there was like, okay, we go remote. I remember I was working at a financial services firm, and I'm not going to name them because I don't want them coming after me because I'm going to say some little dirt and shade to them. But what their disaster recovery plan was for us to recover remotely, right? We had moved out of the city, but the in order for us to recover remotely, we had to get on our computers and log into our computer that was in the building. So I told the guy that was leading up our disaster recovery, I was like, that's not that wise, is it? I was like, so if our building gets blown up, you want me to go log back into a computer that's not there anymore? I was like, that's a huge hole. So they had to figure that out and create virtual machines, which the technology was already there. They just were slow moving the buck on that, right? So that's the big thing, right? When we hit the pandemic, the infrastructure was already there. If the infrastructure hadn't been already laid for most companies had already thought about how are they going to recover, we wouldn't see people being able to work remote, right? And this is an amazing time because a pandemic like this, if it would have hit without the technology that we have today, when we talk about global impact on markets,
oh my
we
God.
would have seen markets destroyed, completely destroyed.
And on top of that, the loss of life would have been even more than it is today. If this would have,
Definitely.
if it happened 10 years ago or 15 years ago or 20 years ago, it would have been just, it's already catastrophic. So
Yep.
we can't minimize that, but it would have been out of control. So that is, I guess, a silver lining for it. So today on Surviving Business, we spent some time to talk to you all, and thank you for those who joined us, um, about three things that you really need to think about, and like introspective things to think about as a person ready to start a business. So please make sure you subscribe and like and all that cool stuff, and subscribe and like so we can share this with more people. We really want to make sure that everybody gets to hear this message because we believe it has value.
Yep.
And yeah,
Oh, go on.
no, continue, please.
Yeah. So yeah, I just want to add, I think that just speaking about the beginning section where we hit on those three things that you want to make sure that you're doing, assessing the inventory, knowing your purpose, and knowing the who is, that is key, right? We want to make sure that you're thinking about those the different industries that are out there and the impact that's happening, right? And the one that we covered today was theater, right? If you have feedback, you have ideas about what theater can do, make sure that you write it. Not necessarily, we're not saying that you're writing it so that we can go to some theater company and be like, yo, this is what you should do. We want to make what we're hoping to do is to create like a catalog of information, right? We want to have a catalog of information so that when people are trying to start their business or when they're looking to get involved in the industry, they're looking to do this kind of work, they can go and they can look at Surviving Business and they can look at the things that we've talked about and the things that our people that have joined have talked about, and they can say like, yo, that's a great idea, I can apply that.
That's
Or I
right.
never thought about that. Or I did think about that, but I didn't think about it like that, right? And they can take that information and use it to be better, right? To be successful.
That's
That's
right.
why we do this.
That's exactly right. Our goal is to give first and to really understand that we believe that businesses are great things. We believe that they're here to help other people's lives get better. And so the point about talking today around those three items, and then we really, hopefully you all felt our real love of theater. Hopefully you really got that, because we really want to make sure that we shared it with you. And then the thriving businesses, I'm telling you, that was a great segment today. And to see and really link it to something that every single one of us you have, and every single one of us are dealing with. We hope that you get down with this. We hope that you follow us. Please send us comments at any given time. It's just a great thing. We are getting close to our season number 1 finale, so we hopefully you can continue to get down and join us with that as we get to our final awesome thing for season 1. And we're going to revisit these topics that we talked about today. So don't think, oh man, I had a comment or a question, I wonder if they're going to ever talk about it again. We are. And we want you to be part of that conversation. We want you to really be engaged with it, because as you can tell here in season 1, we're very strong in talking about thematically, how do we help businesses that are struggling in our current times? But we know that there's going to be times in the future, and there's going to be boom times for every single one of us. And so surviving businesses are going to still be there, because every time there's an upside or a downside in our economy, there's somebody who needs help, no matter what. And there's always somebody who's doing great at the same time. So our focus is to do that. So Dave, final comments from you, and then I'm going to wrap us up here with my final thoughts.
Okay, I see we got a comment. 50 ways, ideas to survive. We will get there. We're not there yet. We'll get there. Keep watching us. We'll make it to number 50. We'll make it to number 100. We'll make it to 1,000. Don't worry about it.
Thank you. Thank you, Steve Durante, or Durante Steve. That's a great thing. I am sure that if you catalog what we've already talked about in this and our previous 7 episodes, we close.
Yep.
We close to them 50.
Well, you know, Steve is my fellow alum, you know, CAU in the house, you know.
Which means that I know you, Steve. Somewhere I've met you. If you're an alum, I know I've met you.
Yeah, you have. He's in Atlanta. No, actually, he's not. He's in New York. He's up in Harlem.
Thank you for those comments there.
But yeah, I just want to say, you know, this was great today. Let's continue. Let's keep it going.
Surviving business is our life. We love it. Going back to what we shared, it's our calling. So find yours. And we will see you next time on the Surviving Business Show. Take care, everyone.